So this is the TBW interview with Stuart Hall, where we're going to talk about Stuart Hall Cycling Holidays, his brand and what he's done to set it up over the years and why he's supporting the team. Stuart has joined us. Stuart, if you'd like to say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. We've also got Samuel Painter and Tim Torrie, who have been out there over the last 12 months or so, who'll be joining us to just talk a little bit more about Stuart Hall's brand, what he does, what the camps are like, and what makes it so special. So Stuart, my first question to you is kind of why a cycling holiday? What are your personal experiences with cycling and racing?
I started cycling when I was 13. Went through schoolboy in the UK with some success, but not much success. Went to Holland when I left school, rode for a couple of Dutch club teams in the Utrecht, getting lots of batterings from usually stronger juniors than I was, because at junior level then some guys develop much quicker than others, and it seemed like I was either a slow learner or a slow developer, or a bit of both, you know. Yeah. Then I moved to France, down by Bordeaux, Libourne. Totally changed the way I thought about things, the way I raced, the way I rode my bike. The races were longer, bigger groups, more road race orientated than criterium, which really seemed to suit me. Had a really difficult first season there. Well, it's first half season, because I moved there halfway through the season from Holland. In fact, the first 4 races I crashed in each race. About the next 6 races I had about 4 or 5 punches. So it was a really tough start. And I eventually sort of got it together, stayed in there and got through to the end of the first year. And then I was offered a chance to ride for a team called US Talents, based at Bordeaux, which was a pretty good team. I was struggling to see at the time, based on my results and my input into local cycling, why I got invited, but they just wanted a foreign rider on the team, and I was the only foreign rider down there. So
sometimes it is right place, right time, isn't it?
Right place, right time, yeah. And from then on, it just got better and better, you know. Had a bit more direction, rode slightly better equipment, and more of a race program rather than just turning up to every race and just riding. There was definitely direction with, you know, what you're going to do today or what was expected of you, you know, and some race I'd say, you know, just do the first 60 Ks or 80 Ks, and you know, it was different to what I'd experienced prior to that, you know. So after 5 seasons there, I moved to Normandy, which was another baptism of fire, completely different style of racing. The weather was cold, the weather was wet. The bunches were just as big. There seemed to be more crashes. Everyone seemed to have mechanical problems in those days on the Simplex and Maillard gears and cassettes, well, blocks in those days as they were called. But, you know, we got through it. We rode there for 6 seasons, had some great times. Then suddenly it was a bit too hard to just keep racing, really. And so I came back to the UK, tried a few normal jobs, not being rude to normal jobs, but they didn't work for me, you know. I seemed to have lots of discipline, but it was the wrong sort of discipline, you know.
Just wanted to be on your bike. yeah,
it was the wrong sort of discipline. I did a few sort of promotion cycle events, Associated British Foods. I organised a roller racing competition, going around the country, opening new supermarkets like Asda's, Iceland's, Tesco's. We drive around, and there was a English pro at the time called Chrissy Wharton, who was sponsored by these guys, and we just drove around in this van for probably a month, 6 weeks, setting up roller racing competitions at opening supermarket. No, which was a great 6 weeks. You know, we stayed in good hotels. rode our bikes, had a laugh, took the mick out the public, and it was good. And then they offered me a proper job, which was sort of, it was okay because it was a good paid job. It was a company car, suit, all the stuff that you're supposed to really like. But it didn't really work out because every time they wanted to get hold of me, I was on my bike over the Brecon Beacons with some guys from South Wales. So they asked me to leave rather than fire me. So I left then. Then they decided to set up a cycling holiday company, which at that time was mostly based in France because I had more experience in France. I'd been to Mallorca probably 6 times by then in different situations with different teams, different organisations. So we used to do stuff like we rode the Marmot in '87, which had less than 200 starters. It's got like 10,000 now. We would ride events like the Bernardino, the amateur Paris-Nice. Well, not the amateur Paris-Nice, but it was a sportive type Paris-Nice, which was organised by Paris Airports. There's a cycling club called Paris Airports, and all the staff at the airports, they used to organise these endurance multi-day events, and we do stuff like that. And then we'd follow the Tour de France. I'd organise trips to follow the whole of the Tour de France, backpacking with tents. So we'd start riding at 3 o'clock in the morning and finish at 10 o'clock at night, and watch a stage somewhere in between, and then get up the next morning. We did that for like 21 days, and it worked well. And that from that event we got lots of business. Seriously, it was just unbelievable. It just absolutely snowballed, and then we started moving to Mallorca, and I knew the guy who built the hotel which we were using at the time, and there was quite a lot of English cyclists there, British cyclists, but they were all little club groups or little groups of mates, and everybody was paying a different price for the hotel. The package they got depended on who you spoke to at the hotel, and even who was on reception. You know what I mean? So I said to the guy who owned the hotel, why don't we just have a standard price, which he wasn't that keen on at the time. But, if you have a standard price and you sort of mid-market it, then everybody knows what they're paying. So that's how it started, really. I created this sort of standard price for everyone, changed the menu at the hotel, so it suited the British palates more and the British cyclists more, which was basically hamburgers every day and chips.
Yeah, but your audience, you cater to them.
Yeah. So, and that's how it started, really, and it just sort of gradually progressed. And there's a couple of other big UK companies doing it at the time that folded for various reasons, and I just sort of mopped up their business, really, and it just sort of progressed from there, and it's steadily grown and grown. We still carried on doing around about between 4 and 6 events a year in France: Marmot, Bernardino, Grand Picardy, Grand Trophy events, all that sort of stuff. The one year we rode about 90% of the Grand Trophy events because I had people who wanted to ride the whole series so that they could get placed overall in the standings. And that was pretty good, and that put me in good stead with the organisers. So they gave me a contract to take groups there, which I've still got, but don't really use that much. And then we moved back into place-to-place events with some corporate companies. We've done a lot of work with banks. We've done works with champagne houses, water boards, councils. We've done stuff like London, Milan, London, Zurich, London, Geneva. We did London to Reims year before with Laurent Perrier champagne. And we're just planning a Dunkirk to Sibert now for either the end of this year or beginning of next year, which is the French equivalent of Land's End John O'Groats.
What would you say is your What would you say is your favourite event that your favourite one in the year you do each year, or your favourite one you've ever done?
The one I really love to do is the Raid Pyrenees.
Okay.
But I did Raid Alps 2 years ago, which I've done several times, but that one was particularly good, really, really good. It was a great group of guys. We had good weather. It flowed. We didn't really have any problems. You know, the sort of problems you can encounter on a day-to-day basis are unsurmountable, really. You know, so
with the groups, the size that, you know, if you have a few people out, anything can go wrong at that stage.
Yeah, you know, the groups, the dynamic of the group is the most important thing in those events. You know, if you get a good club group, like we get a lot of Dutch club groups, or particularly for Raid Pyrenees, because the Dutch really want to do the Raid Pyrenees. For some reason, they'll drive down and do the Alps themselves, but they never want to drive down to the Pyrenees themselves. I'm not quite sure why, because the distance is probably 200 k's different in driving. But they always want to do an organised Raid Pyrenees and never want to do an organised Raid Alpine. So, but some of the Dutch groups are pretty great to work with. You know,
because you also do an awful lot of stuff in Mallorca, obviously, but that's more of a general winter base camp, which is what
Mallorca, we usually do January till May in Mallorca. January, February time. Basically, you get the guys who are looking to race around about March or something, and we just concentrate on long base miles. A typical week in January, February would be 600-700 mile. You know.
I'd love to.
Well, you're out there all day. You know, you've got all day to do.
Nothing
else to do. You get back to the hotel. You got water to have a shower. Somebody cooks your dinner. You have your dinner. You go to bed. You get up. You know, so it works. You know, and we do get a lot of Belgian women's teams and Dutch women's teams who come on the early January, February camps with us because they know that they'll do the miles. And it's sort of built up reputation over the years. In fact, we get more Dutch women than we do get English guys. But they'll do 100 mile a day and think nothing of it, won't complain. So whereas you get a lot of the English guys, you go there and say, we do 100 mile a day. Well, my coach says, we should only be doing 40 mile today. We can do 40 mile when you're at home. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've had some experience trying to do a little bit of what you did. I tried it for 2 months at the start, just before I joined TBW. And trying to manage it all and train, I found quite stressful. I could do about 25 hours a week before I was balancing, taking bookings and getting people in was just a little bit too much. But I mean, you've been doing it for years, so I bet it just comes second nature to you now.
Well, it does, and we got a great automated system as well now. And you know, I mean, that's a key thing. You know, the automated system, all the insurance is in place. We've got partners we've worked with for 15 years, 10 years, transport companies. You know, you can just ring people up. It's so much easier, you know, when you know people, you know, and when you've got a bit of a history of paying them and they know they're going to get paid. You know, if you ring up and people, I've got a guy 50 mile away, he broke down, can you go and collect him? You know, well, if they can say, well, you've got to pay us 80 euros to get him, you know, how are you going to pay him 80 euros over the phone when you're somewhere down a country lane somewhere, you know? But if they know you, they just get, okay, great, send us a pin where he is and we'll go and get him. And that makes
we'll work it out later.
Yeah, that makes all that sort of stuff so much easier. You know, but you have to build up relationships with people, really. And
I found that so much of every part of life is that.
Yeah.
It's who you know, how you know.
Relationships you develop and build, and how you build them is important. You know, you often, I found that you often have to trust them more than they trust you in the beginning, particularly with the Europeans.
Yeah.
You know, and cycling is very much a sport as well, isn't it? Where everyone knows everyone. So it's kind of all about that networking, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, but generally the guys who come are pretty damn good. You know, we have minimal problems, and a lot of the problems we get, and which are very few problems, are because people think that they're fitter than they are. You know.
Yes, I imagine that is
so they get overtired, you know, and And that situation has been exasperated over particularly the last 3 years, because more and more women have entered into the sport, and more women are in great shape. You know, they're fit, they're physically fit, and they can ride well. You know, and a lot of the older guys, the 45, 55-year-old guys, can't cope with that.
No, and they need to be seen in their own minds to outperform or be better than.
So they go and
it's just
for 3 days thinking that these younger women who are 25 to 30 or even younger are going to fade away, but they just stay exactly as the same as they are, and the old guys get tired and worn out.
It's just a.
And then they
Sorry,
get.
no, go on, John. No, I was going to say you had. Oh well, who's going?
You.
Okay, cool. I'll say you had Sophie out there, Sophie Wright, didn't you, with you guys a few years ago? And I can imagine how, it would have been tough, because she is, she's a world tour rider now, isn't she? So it probably would have been interesting.
She causes a few problems.
Yeah.
Like
inadvertently.
Well, I mean, not in January 19, we had Sarge van den Broek and Sarah Engelbrecht from Belgium, who rode the pro teams, and the guys who came out thought they were fit, but like those girls, like Sarah, she said she did 38,000 Ks a year before. So she was in great shape. And Sarge was like just so strong, it was just unbelievable, and all these guys were trying to batter him. And in the last 20 Ks, the older guys would just be hanging on the back, really. And they got a bit miserable about it by about Thursday. But that's one of the nice problems that we get really these days, that the women show up and guide, and that does happen quite regularly, particularly in the early season.
I can imagine. I was just going to ask Sam and then Tim, kind of what were your experiences out there? Because you've both spent, I'm not quite sure. Sam, I think you spent 6 weeks out there, 5 weeks.
Yeah, 5 weeks in the end. So I ended up being there over the second lockdown in the UK. So it was probably not a typical period of time you might spend with Stuart. So I ended up staying in an apartment with a couple of the guides, and there wasn't anybody else out there at that time. So I pretty much just rode every day with Ed, one of the guides, and it's I mean, they're great guys, and so I didn't get much of an experience of what a typical holiday might be like with Stuart, but you got the sense that he knows what he's doing.
And from what I've heard, the nature of the people you've got around you, Stuart, just make it come together that week or however many weeks you're out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the guys have been with us like 12, 15 years.
Yeah, you can't buy that. That's something special.
Stuart was amazingly helpful. I think I got in contact with him and said, I might come out soon, and then I looked at the flights and it was like, I've got to come out tomorrow, or I'm not going to have to come out. And like he sorted it like overnight, and got everything arranged, and just made everything possible. So I've no doubt that he does that for everybody.
We do, yeah.
And just makes things.
We actually get, I know every year there's between 15 and 20 people who ring me up when they're getting off the plane in Palma and tell me they're here.
I bet you love those calls, Stuart.
Well, because I've been doing it so long, I can more or less work out what day they're going to come, and I'll say to the guys, you better hang around the airport today because so-and-so's most likely going to arrive.
Just appears.
Yeah.
Tim, what were your experiences like with Stuart? When you were
absolutely fabulous. So like Samuel, it was just a case of I booked the flights and then Stuart did everything else, and you arrived there and then you're shipped off to the hotel, and I did my first ride. I just did by myself, everybody's typical one out to the lighthouse. But then going through the week, I spent a lot of time with all the groups. they're really just the different routes that you go on the island, because I've been out there 3 times before, so I sort of knew my way around the island pretty well. I like to think I'm quite got a good nose for directions anyway, but yeah, like Simon and Ed, just all these different routes that I'd never even knew existed. And like San Salvador, for example, down on the south of the island, that climb is like just comes out of nowhere, and all the different cafes, and it's just every day you get a different experience. And there's always a faster ride going out, always a more gentle ride going out, and they're all sort of that time of year as well. They're kind of perfect base miles. So for me, when I was out there, I think I did 1 week, I did 1200k, so that was a big one. So yeah, I got a proper good day, and I capped that off with a big old, so you can sort of do your own thing as well. So Stuart, and they let me go off and do my own riding as well by myself, so because I do quite like to train on my own as well, so I got that good mix of doing both, because I was every morning I was going up and just going really hard up to Formentor just before the group went out, and then I'd come back down and we'd all roll out together after I'd done basically a 20 or 15-minute effort up the cap. And yeah, it's just like really good training, and I came out of there probably the fittest I'd ever been, to be honest. And it wasn't true, because everyone knows the kind of pace that you need to be at, and as Stuart says, so many people train too hard all the time. And actually it was through talking to Stuart as well that I started to get in my head, because I've always been a classic overtrainer. Like I ride everywhere at 25 mile an hour, basically. And through talking to Stuart,
I've heard this from multiple sources.
Yeah,
there's multiple people who told me that about you, Tim.
Yeah, no, exactly. I ride everywhere at 300 watts, basically. Yeah, so through talking with Stuart, I actually got in my head, and that whole week was like a massive learning process for me, for actually, if I don't ride so far, I can ride so much more and do so many more hours. So that 1 week, those 2 weeks I was out there, was just like, I actually worked out, Jesus, if I do this really easy, then I can actually go and do like a 36-hour week with absolutely no problems. So yeah, it was just, I took so much away from the experience through Stuart's experience and Simon's experience, and talking with Ed, and then there's a social aspect of it as well. So all the guys coming in, they're all different backgrounds, and just yeah, it kind of just brings together everyone who's got a love of cycling. It's really cool when you can just socialize at dinner and lunch, and yeah, it's just a great experience.
Yeah. Stuart, from everything I've heard from everyone who's spoken, it sounds like you've got a product that doesn't come around overnight. You've worked really hard on this, and it's amazing when people come out. But just as we're wrapping up towards the end, what is the one thing you want? How do you want people to leave? What's the feeling you want them to have when they leave at the end of the week or their stay? What are you looking for? What makes
that they want to come back? Yeah, and they do. 87% of our customers return at least 5 times.
That's amazing.
And we've got 16 customers that have been on at least 50 trips with us.
They're impressive numbers. Stuart, we're at the end of our recording, but thank you very much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
Can't wait to come out and see it for myself. All the best. Bye, guys.
Thanks very much, Stuart.
Cheers. Bye.